So if I say the words to you, eternal life, what comes up? What do you imagine? What do you think those words mean if you just hear them out of context? Is it the sort of classic cartoony clouds and harps kind of a deal? Angel wings, maybe? Just curious, because today in our 5-minute devotional, Jesus gives us a definition, and it might be a little bit different than the things that automatically come to mind when we hear the words eternal life. So we're in John chapter 17, verses 1 to 5. When Jesus had spoken these words, he lifted up his eyes to heaven and said, Father, the hour has come. Glorify your Son, that the Son may glorify you, since you have given him authority over all flesh, to give eternal life to all whom you have given him. And this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. I glorified you on earth, having accomplished the work that you gave me to do, and now, Father, glorify me in your own presence with the glory that I had with you before the world existed. So, forever and ever, because we're going very, very slowly through John, these last several chapters have been Jesus having this long discussion with his disciples before he goes away, before he goes to be crucified. And this is like in the context of the Last Supper, all this kind of stuff. Now he's done with this stuff that he wants to tell them. And this whole chapter that we're starting today is a prayer of Jesus. We see Jesus praying lots of times in the gospel, in all of the gospels. And a lot of times we'll see something like, and Jesus went up on the mountain and prayed all night. But we don't get any of the content. We don't know what happened, what he was talking with God about for a lot of this. But here, in the 17th chapter of the Gospel of John, we have a whole chapter that is written out, a prayer of Jesus for his disciples, and we'll see later, ultimately, for us. So that's pretty cool. But the thing I wanted to center on today was this idea of eternal life. Let me read again what Jesus had to say about eternal life. He actually gives a definition. This is eternal life, he said, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. First thing that's interesting about this is that there's no mention of time involved, except for the word eternal. It doesn't say, eternal life is what is going to happen after you die, or sometime a long time in the future when I come back and make the world right. No, there isn't any mention of it starting later. It looks like this eternal life that Jesus is talking about starts now. So how can it start now? I thought maybe it was something that happened like, when we're dead or something like that. But that's not what Jesus is talking about here. He gives this definition that it is to know God and to know him. And not just to know about God, to know the fact that God exists and the fact that Jesus came from God, but to actually know Jesus and actually know God. Like I could say, do you know my wife Libby? Not the fact of her existence, but when you hear that phrase, you're like, yeah, I know her. She's like blah, 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 blah. So what Jesus is saying is the life that we have that is eternal is a relationship with God through Jesus. Something that starts now can start at any time and lasts forever, which is another beautiful thing. Because isn't that one of the things that we don't necessarily want to think about with relationships, of them having to end, either when someone's no longer friends with you for some reason or somebody dies. This relationship isn't like that. It never has to end. So, I hope you have a little bit better idea right now of what eternal life is, and that it can be yours now.